Everyone, this is a special meeting with our airport, and it is May 9th, 2023. The time is 9 a.m. I'm calling this meeting to order. In attendance are Commissioners Brooks, Matari, and Duncan. Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead with our first item, and it is an action item. This is Airport Right-of-Way, Ramsey Road, City of Hayden, and I was going to let our mayor and Mayor of Hayden and our city manager, administrator, Brett Boyer, kind of lead us off.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan. Because our city administrator, Brett Boyer, is more familiar with the specifics, I'm going to let him take the lead on this.
Okay.
We appreciate your time this morning to further consider these items. The city back in 2012 received a federal grant to construct a road around the end of the runway to go up to Lancaster. So it would extend Ramsey Road around the end of the runway. So we've been working on this project for quite some time. We put it on hold back in 2016, trying to determine the location of the road around the end of the runway. There was some disagreement between multiple parties, between KCAT, the county, and the city. After 2016, I won't go into the details. They went through a long process. I think Phil, who's also here, was part of that. That we sat down with KCAT, the airport folks, and came to agreement on where that road would go around the end. And that was memorialized in the master plan. And so the maps show where that is. And so really today what we're here to ask for is there are 3 different parcels that the city needs to acquire in order to complete the project as designed. One of them is the end of runway. So I describe it as end of runway piece of property. The second one is the Humane Society property. And the third one is where Lakes Highway District property is. The Lakes Highway District property is not a purchase. It's just a temporary construction easement that we're wishing to acquire. And so that will remain as is, but just during construction, we need to utilize that for the construction. The Humane Society and the end of runway was submitted to the county back in early 2022, probably in February. We submitted the documents for that, and then we received comments back that in this documents that had purchase of a piece of property and then permanent easement. The comments that we received back on both of those, to keep it simple, were we would rather you just purchase the permanent easement portion. So we took that back, redid the documents so that it showed just as part of the right-of-way acquisition purchase as opposed to right-of-way easement. And then those documents were approved by the City Council in October of 2022, and then the airport received those in November of 2022. And so we now have those 3 pieces of property before the county, and it's the request of the city, because we are under a time crunch to move forward with this grant for the county to move forward and finalize those approval of those documents. This project is important, I think, to the entire community. I think also to the county, the airport folks, because this will create a better access road from the south to the north. As I think we've all seen, there's been a lot more action and different things happening on the north side, but there are still a lot of things happening on the south side. And so this Ramsey Road extension just provides better access for everyone. And so, but we do have some requirements under the federal grant to finalize this right-of-way so that we can move forward this summer and put the sewer underneath the road, and then construction of the actual road next year. And they have given us some deadlines. in the next, I talked with Alan, he said 30 to 45 days to finalize the right-of-way. And so that's why we're here asking for the county to move forward.
Okay. So Phil, any questions, concerns?
No, I kinda
Can
walk
you
in-
push your, thank you.
Phil Cummings from the airport, for the record. As Brett indicated, I had worked with the city and the county on this years ago before my retirement. And I kind of walked back in on the middle of this process being finished up. So I reviewed what was presented and looked at the review process for the purchase. We have the letters of concurrence from the FAA, and we sent it back down to the board here about a week and a half ago, and I think it's something that would benefit both the airport and the city, so I see no point to why not to move forward.
Okay. So questions, comments on this?
Nope.
Good. Okay. So Dave, did you get the updated documents?
Well, I'm not aware of any updated documents. I had
Okay.
the documents that were sent to me in the blue folders.
Okay.
Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if there was new documents or not.
I think we provided a new full set a couple of weeks ago because
Okay.
my understanding that the county couldn't find documents.
Okay, so is that,
It sounds like that's what I have, which I have here on my computer too.
Yeah,
Okay.
Commissioner,
Dated December 8th, 21? Does that
Yeah.
sound right, Brett?
December 8/21.
Uh-huh.
That sounds like an older set, so.
So we took what I received and just scanned it in, so I have it here, so maybe I don't have the updated versions.
We can
But this is the
verify.
packet for signature
That-
that I received. So,
Okay.
yeah,
All right,
sorry.
all right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
that was the packet that Alan gave to me.
Then that's the updated one.
That is the
Alan
updated
said
ones.
He gave. the
Correct.
Updated one.
Yes.
a couple
Okay.
weeks ago.
Okay.
so it's an action item today. So if we vote on it and say, yes, we want to go ahead with this sale and approval of the right-of-way, how long will it take, Dave, to put it through the process?
What process?
Do we have to come back at a business meeting, or is this sufficient? And then,
If you approve it today, then you'd be approving everything in these packets for signature. And the only thing left to do is just sign on the dotted line, so to
okay,
speak.
so have you reviewed them then and you're comfortable?
No, I haven't.
Okay,
Sort of part of the same issue is I was unaware of any of this, literally any of it, until those three what I'm going to call closing packages, because that's really what they are,
okay,
came to me a couple of weeks ago. So like you and I discussed, Leslie, rather than me sort of trying to unpack everything in the last second and risk annoying or offending people who have worked on this for so long. And after you and I talked, I wasn't certain the board had really been fully briefed and was completely aware of what this project even was, because I had never seen any of it. That's why I thought a meeting today with the parties and the airport, with Phil here would be a good idea.
okay,
I can, certainly kind of give a once-over now that I sort of understand what this is about. I can give a once-over to it, but, if the board approves it today, unless there's some, glaring problem, and if there's a glaring problem, I presume the board has already reviewed these documents. Maybe you want to put it on hold and do some more review, but, if you approve it today, doesn't seem like you really need me to review it.
Well, I think it's important, there's a difference between conceptually approving something and approving a legal agreement. So I think we should look at the legal agreement. And I think what you're looking for, Dave, is some context behind what it is that we're supposed to be agreeing to make sure that those documents address those issues. Is that correct?
Well, the context was of course one piece, and the other part was direction. It's difficult, and I've explained this in other contexts, but it's difficult for an attorney to come in after the fact, never having been part of any discussions between the parties or with the parties regarding this kind of, agreement, land transfer, easement grant, that sort of thing, to get a set of documents on my desk, and first of all, know what it is or what it's about, or whether the board was really apprised of the terms, whether the board's agreed to the terms. I may have all kinds of questions that have already been decided, so to speak, between the parties. And I certainly, didn't want to upset the apple cart, so to speak, after the fact. Wanted everyone to have the opportunity to pose questions, my client, the board, pose questions to me in a confidential setting if appropriate, and then respond to those. So that's really the purpose of coming here today.
Okay.
I think I would suggest, it sounds like there's a little bit of time after today's meeting, not necessarily approving all these agreements today. If you want to, you certainly can. But maybe take a week, pose any questions you have to me, whatever they might be, and I can give you written legal advice. And then if there really aren't any questions or anything of any significance or substance, set it for a business meeting, because it really is kind of a business meeting item anyway. Set it for maybe next week's business meeting.
Yes.
At least give us a few days to ponder and mull over these agreements.
Okay.
If you want any kind of meaningful legal review, that's what's going to be required.
I
I don't know that it
would
really
favor-
needs it exactly, but we don't know, I don't know what questions you might have.
Right. So then if we approve it and sign it next Tuesday, a week from today, that still gives us enough time to go through escrow and get all that stuff done, or you just need the signatures in order for the grant to be satisfied?
I think if you can, take this week, that's fine. Go through it, and if you have any questions, we can help with that. That should be fine.
Okay.
According to our time, so we
Okay.
want you to feel comfortable with it.
So Phil or even Dave, if I don't have the updated documents, I only have what was given to me a year ago. So if you wanted to.
Should, I've made sure those got forwarded after we scanned them in to everybody on the board, but
Okay, then I'll go back and look. I didn't know that those were the
they
new
were sent
documents.
by email on April 26th, so
Okay.
look for an email, April 26th, from me.
Okay,
There's 3 attachments, Leslie, because there was 3 folders with 3 closing packages.
okay,
So each attachment is part of that. Well, each attachment represents one of each closing package.
okay. All right, I will go ahead and review those, and you guys got the documents as well, so if you can have questions to Dave in the next couple days, then we'll put it on for
I
Tuesday.
mean, frankly, I've read them, I've reviewed closing packages before, and they're fairly straightforward. My concern for my client, of course, was that I wasn't part of I didn't draft any of the agreements. I've never read them before. I'm not certain if our county surveyor was involved or had an opportunity to look at the surveys. There are appraisals referenced in the sale documents. I don't know
I
who the
have that.
appraisers were.
I
or-
have that appraisal.
Okay, fair enough. So, the board, I think it's fair for the board to review those documents and bring questions for legal advice if you need it.
Okay,
So I want to make sure you had the opportunity to do that.
yeah. All right. All right, anything further? Okay, we'll go ahead and open up that email and review them and get our questions to you, and we'll put it back on for Tuesday. And if there's any, questions, we'll reach out to you, or Dave will reach out to you, so.
Sure.
Does it make sense to have maybe Brett join us next Tuesday if it's on the meeting? At least that way, if we do have any questions, or
think the questions
you
will
want
be
to do that
answered
beforehand?
beforehand.
Yep,
Yep.
fair enough.
And we can
Maybe
put them
you're
on the
welcome.
record.
Okay.
Yeah,
We could do that.
yeah, we
May
can,
may I ask you, is Fonda Jovic your counsel on this?
Yes.
Okay. I guess if any legal issues come up, I can just call her.
Yeah, she's been involved in,
I suspected so. Okay, great.
Yep, thank you.
okay. So then we don't need a motion this morning. We can just give direction.
It's going to be under
to-
review.
Under review. Okay. Anything
thank you.
further on the right-of-way issue?
Nope,
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
All right, item 2, StanCraft lease changes. And I am not sure who all has gotten that information. So essentially, StanCraft reached out. I talked to Phil a little bit about it. In their lease, it talks about not being able to take a loan out for more than the original project cost. StanCraft has multiple leases on the airport. And it's my understanding they would like to consolidate their loan into one loan covering all of the leases. So that kind of violates the terms of their leases just in that aspect. With the way the market is today, I think that it's difficult to have this language remain, and there's a couple different options we can do. Because if somebody built a hangar for, say $200,000, and then today it's worth $800,000, and now they need to take a loan out for $300,000, they would not be allowed to do that based on the lease, just because the value changes. So in this particular case, I understand what StanCraft wants to do, and I would be in favor of looking at an option where, I don't know if it's just an addendum that covers their leases that says, yes, the board agrees to let them consolidate their loans. That's just one option. So just brought it before the board to get some thoughts on that. And
Well, I think there's probably a good reason why it's in there the way it is. And, refinancing these properties on leased land poses an issue because a lot of times the mortgage will go longer than the lease. And so it creates a situation where, we could end up having issues that we don't even realize when it comes time to renew the lease. What if we don't want to renew the lease? And I think that's why these mortgages were allowed for construction, because those terms were probably going to be within the confines of the term of the lease. So they were compartmentalized within it. Refinancing is going to change that. And I think there's a good reason why that language was not in the lease to begin with, and we need to understand why that wasn't the case before we can start looking at amending it.
okay.
I don't know when these leases were crafted, but I'm sure they were crafted at a time when you could still refinance commercial properties.
All right, so StanCraft has asked us to look at this. So do you not want to look at it, or?
I just said I need to understand why that language is put in there to begin with.
Okay.
I think once we understand that, then we can figure out, what is the potential consequences of that. I don't know, Dave, do you have any thoughts on what happens when a term for a mortgage goes beyond the lease? I mean, when the lease expires, does the mortgage holder still have a claim to the property?
Well, these are unique situations, and we're on the record. Do we have an executive? I think I'd feel more comfortable being able to give the board advice in executive session
Okay,
if we're going to get into significant legal issues.
okay. So we can stop the StanCraft discussion right now, and we can go on to North
But
Idaho.
what I'm suggesting is I think we can just go into executive session and talk about these legal issues for both.
Right, we just have one more item that we could handle before
we
executive
can.
session.
It's the same thing.
It's, the way I understood it, there are two subordination agreements that we were going to talk about today.
Oh, okay, so you
One
want to
was
handle the
North
second
Idaho
one
Hangar
too?
Group, and the other one was StanCraft, which has a bundle of leases.
Right,
Which I
okay,
think the issues kind of intertwine, frankly.
yeah, then that is, I'm totally
I
fine
think a
with that.
1D would probably be appropriate if we want to have the advice, any advice I give to remain privileged.
Yes, no, I appreciate that. We actually have two, a 1D and a 1F, and I'd like to handle both of those at the same time.
Okay, sure.
So if you guys are ready, then I would take a motion.
Aren't you going to do the inmate telephone commission thing?
Okay, so that's status update, and we're just on the airport.
Oh, golly gee whiz,
You are
I'm sorry.
way far ahead of us, Tina.
That's a switch.
Well, thank you. That's what you call a left-handed compliment.
All right, I move that we go into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-2061D
And F.
and F.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks? Commissioner Matari?
Aye.
Chair Duncan?
Aye. All right. Thanks, Joe. session.
I move that we exit executive session with staff to proceed as discussed.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Matari,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. Any public comment on the airport meeting? Hearing none, 10:22, meeting adjourned. Okay, got about